Put it in plastics, I guess.
Okay. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to our August 20th meeting. As some of you may or may not know, there's been an accident on Highway 1, so we were trying to delay the start of the meeting in order to allow, I'm sure, some of the community members and hopefully one other commissioner to be available. But we're going to go ahead and get started. And so, David, if we want to go ahead and do roll call.
Commissioner Weiss.
Present.
Commissioner Hunt.
Present.
Commissioner Perez.
Present.
And Commissioner Damhorst.
Present.
And for the record, we're missing Commissioners Woonink, Ramon, Nakahara, Culbertson, and Burns, some of whom may be caught in traffic.
Stuck in traffic, okay. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So as some of you may know, this is our last workshop in the series. Tonight, we'll hear from a representative in Senator John Laird's office regarding legislation update on the battery energy storage systems. Unfortunately, our speaker tonight, Matt Pace, who was scheduled to present, had to cancel, and we weren't unable to find a substitute in time. But we'll also be reviewing the information presented at the last two workshops for final review. So as you know, this is just kind of a caveat that I always kind of like to say for anybody joining us for the first time. So the Commission on the Environment is an advisory only commission. So we're not a judicial body like the Planning Commission. So no policy or regulatory decisions will be made at this time. So I'd like to move on with our first agenda item if we can. We're very fortunate tonight to begin our meeting with Khalida Sarwari. Khalida serves as Senator John Laird's Santa Cruz District Representative and Policy Analyst, and will be providing us with the latest updates on Senator Laird's California Senate Bill 283. It's also known as the Clean Energy Safety Act of 2025, which focuses on enhancing safety standards for battery energy storage systems in California. So Khalida, thank you so much for coming out tonight. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chris. And thanks for the invitation to be here. And can everybody hear me okay? Great. So good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. As Chris mentioned, my name is Khalida Sarwari, and I work for Senator John Laird here in Santa Cruz. I am here to talk about Senate Bill 283, as you mentioned, also known as the Clean Energy Safety Act. And this is a bill that Senator Laird authored to ensure that battery energy storage facilities in California are built and operated with the highest level of safety, particularly with respect to local fire oversight. As many of you know, this issue hits close to home. In January 2025, this year, the Moss Landing Battery Storage Facility located right here in our district caught fire and burned for several days. It prompted community evacuations and raised serious concerns about toxic smoke, heavy metals, and airborne ash. It was a tragedy for the community and a wake-up call for the state. California is a national leader in clean energy, and battery storage plays an important role in that. To put it into perspective, in 2018 to 2019, we had just 500 megawatts of storage. As of this year, we've reached 13,300 megawatts, and the state's goal is 52,000 megawatts by 2045. That's a 100x growth over less than 30 years. The technology is racing forward, but our policies haven't kept up. The Moss Landing facility, like others built earlier, had indoor battery stacks, so essentially a recipe for thermal runaway. Today, the industry has shifted. Most batteries are stored outdoors in individual fire-separated containers on non-combustible surfaces like concrete pads. But state law still does not require this safer design, and local governments are left without guidance. SB 283 fills that critical gap by adopting the NFPA, short for National Fire Protection Association 855 standards. the gold standard in battery safety. It requires developers to consult local fire authorities before submitting an application, whether to the state or local governments. It mandates inspections by local fire officials or the state fire marshal before the facility goes online. It prohibits battery storage facility development in combustible buildings. And it requires a developer to cover inspection costs, ensuring accountability. SB 283 complements recent efforts such as SB 38, also authored by Senator Laird, which requires local emergency plans for battery storage systems, and SB 1383, which expanded the California Public Utilities Commission's enforcement over battery storage systems. And in March 2025, the CPUC updated its safety rules, including facility inspections and maintenance standards. SB 283 brings it full circle by establishing consistent safety and permitting standards statewide. This is not a partisan issue. It's a safety issue. SB 283 passed the Senate unanimously in May. It's moving through the Assembly now with no opposition after amendments in the Utilities Committee. It's supported by all 3 counties in Senator Laird's district, along with other local governments, first responders, energy developers, and utility providers. If California is to reach 100% clean energy by 2045, we need wind, solar, and battery storage to make the grid reliable when the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing. But we also need to ensure that battery storage is safe for our communities, safe for first responders, and safe for the workers who maintain these facilities. SB 283 is how we get there. To sum it up, Senate Bill 283 ensures that our clean energy future is not just green, but also safe, accountable, and resilient. It provides the guidance, standards, and oversight that California's local governments and emergency responders need as this technology continues to grow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kalita. Appreciate that. If anybody in the general public had a question about SB 283, can they contact John Laird's office? Is that right? Just online?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on. So like I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, our speaker that was scheduled this evening, Matt Pace, had to cancel. However, Matt did write a piece for Lookout, and it was published this morning. And I don't know if any of you had a chance to see that or review it yet, but I feel like it's basically the content that he was going to present to us if he was going to speak tonight. So if it's okay with everybody, I have a copy of his article. And for those of you that hadn't heard it yet, I wanted to go over it to make sure that it got into the meeting minutes as one of our expert speakers. So I'm going to go through his article just real quick. So if you guys will bear with me. The January 20, actually, you know what? For those of you who don't know Matt Pace, let me just go over his bio. This was the intro that we were going to do for him when he was going to present to us this evening. So Matthew Pace is a contractor for Sandia National Laboratories, focusing on battery safety codes and standards. He recently retired from Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, where he led their energy storage safety efforts. And prior to joining PNNL, he was the president of Energy Response Solutions, Inc., is basically a training and consultation firm. Matt brings 28 years of emergency response experience, retiring as a fire captain with the San Jose, California Fire Department. His background in renewable energy started in 1982 at Arco Solar in Camarillo, California, before studying solar technology and fire science at Cabrillo College here in Santa Cruz. Matt was a local too, obviously, as some of you may or may not know from the from his article, but let's go ahead and read his article now if we could. The January 2025 fire at Moss Landing ignited strong discussions across our community, with many calling to block future battery energy storage system projects. While these concerns are valid, I feel it's important to weigh both the risks and the benefits before making decisions that could shape our power future. I've worked with a passion for the environment, technology, and public safety for decades, first in solar technology, then as a career firefighter for 23 years, and later leading national battery safety efforts at a Department of Energy national lab. Today, I chair the National Fire Protection Association NFPA 800 Battery Safety Code and focus on safety standards for Sandia National Laboratories. This experience gives me insight into both the hazards, emergency response, and the protections built into modern BESS designs. To those who think I might promote the battery industry, I am technology agnostic and make no money from battery manufacturers. I do believe BESS can be designed and operated safely. Any energy storage technology can be dangerous if suddenly released. The higher the energy density of a technology often means more intensity when that energy is released during a failure. For example, even lead acid batteries, which are low energy density, have caused fires and explosions. This is not common, but can happen. Even safe options like hydropower have experienced dam failures, resulting in hundreds of fatalities, even here in California. Lithium-ion batteries dominate today's storage market. Most fires we hear about involve small consumer devices, vape pens, e-bikes, scooters, which are more vulnerable to misuse and poor manufacturing. Large utility scale BESS are very different. They are housed in robust outdoor enclosures, tested to survive extreme fire conditions, and designed to prevent one failure from spreading to others. One of the key safety design features we discuss in the codes considers size and separation for safety of outdoor battery enclosures, ensuring that a failure in one stays in that enclosure. This was not present in the indoor Moss Landing BESS and contributed to the significant fire event. While a BESS fire does produce toxic smoke, so does every fire I've been to in 23 years as a firefighter. In fact, I have friends in the fire service who have retired out on disability from inhaling the smoke from a single car fire. In my work while at the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, PNNL, we found that utility scale BESS fires are statistically quite rare. In fact, one major manufacturer reported over 50,000 operational units with only about 10 fires, an extremely low failure rate given the scale. For those thinking even one fire is too many, you should know there is no electrical product with a 0 failure rate. It's a dangerous narrative to say any single fire means the technology is unacceptable. Do we ban Home Depots because a couple have burned down, or ban all internal combustion vehicles because thousands burn every year? Safety has been my primary focus, and the engineering I have seen in modern BESS is quite impressive. Most of us pay little attention to many of the lithium-ion batteries all around us. I carry them in my pockets, in my ears listening to music, or next to my bed as I sleep. That's because failure rates, while not 0, are extremely low. Safety engineers describe risk as the frequency of failure with consequences of an event. One thing I would like to see from industry is more transparency when failures do occur. Tesla demonstrated this during the Megapack fire in 2022 when a fire occurred in one of the enclosures at the Pacific Gas and Electric site at Moss Landing. The company released a full root cause analysis highlighting that the fire was caused by a water leak from an incorrectly installed part. Batteries act like a shock absorber for the power grid by responding in milliseconds. They instantly stabilize fluctuations when solar output drops or when there's an unexpected outage. They store excess renewable energy for use later, helping us integrate more clean power without risking instability. What I am concerned about if we stop all BESS installations in Santa Cruz County, I am concerned that this could be a perfect case of be careful what you ask for. Without the grid support energy storage provides, we might have a very fragile grid. Bloomberg NEF predicts a significant increase in global electricity demand, driven largely by the growth of data centers and artificial intelligence. Bloomberg NEF anticipates a 75% rise in power demand by 2050, with data centers alone accounting for a substantial portion of this growth. The elimination of tax credits for solar and wind generation will further affect this energy gap. Without BESS, we need more fossil fuel plants, often natural gas-fired turbines. which take years to build and add greenhouse gas emissions. Small modular nuclear is coming, but likely 5 to 10 years away from market scale. The absence of storage could result in a higher risk of blackouts during extreme weather, which resulted in over 250 lives lost in Texas in 2021. I am often asked why we aren't using safer technologies. There are alternatives, but they have limitations. In some cases, significant ones. Some of the research being done at PNNL and Sandia includes technologies such as flow batteries, zinc and sodium-based chemistries, including sodium ion, gravity-based systems, non-flammable electrolytes, iron air. Some, like certain sodium ion designs and flow batteries, have promising safety and cost advantages, but most are not yet proven at large scale as efficient or affordable as lithium ion today. Blocking BESS might feel like the safer choice, but it carries its own risks. Higher energy costs, more fossil fuel use, and less reliability. I feel the real solution is to require the highest safety standards possible for any local projects, even exceeding state minimums when the technology is available. I often tell people storing energy is never risk-free, but neither is a grid without it. Our challenge is to make informed, measured choices that protect public safety, our climate, and our energy future. Our community can demonstrate that we not only bounce back from tragedy, but that we can step ahead and lead the way. So again, that was Matt Pace's article that was published today in Lookout, and you guys can check that out online too as well. So with that, I kind of wanted to move on. So the last two workshops that we've covered a tremendous amount of information with presentations from 4 industry experts and subject matter experts. And as a result, the commission wanted to provide a summary content of all 4 presentations in the form of kind of an FAQ, which some of you I think have now. We have printed copies that we put out, and we also have it should be posted online if it's not posted online already. So I think really my goal in all this is that, you know, since June, there's been a lot of information. We've had a lot of basically information presented to the general public, to the commission, and I wanted to try to digest that as much as I could. So the FAQs are a start, and then I also did want to go over, we put kind of a basic slide presentation that kind of distilled it down even a little bit more for some of kind of the highlights. And that's for conversation amongst the commissioners, and then also too, I know members of the general public also wanted to comment on that as well. So at this time, what I'd like to do is go through the slide deck presentation, which is basically a culmination of all of the information that was presented by the 4 speakers that we've had, and then is also in the FAQ. And for those that that maybe are just joining us for the first time, I just wanted to go over briefly the 4 speakers that spoke to us so that we can kind of remember who they were and what their background was, so that we all feel comfortable with the authors. The first one that spoke in June was Dr. Mark Jacobson. And Dr. Jacobson has been a professor at Stanford University since 1994 and is focused on developing large-scale, clean, renewable energy solutions. I won't go into his whole bio, but he's basically a climate scientist and has been around a long time. You'll see the first part of the presentation be part of him. And in your FAQs, I actually broke out each speaker and the content that pretty much they presented in that FAQ. The second speaker that we had was Dennis Dyke O'Neill. Mr. Dyke O'Neill is a power supply and grid specialist, subject matter expert with more than 25 years of experience in renewable energy and grid infrastructure. Then in July, we had Scott Murdishaw, who's the executive director of the California Energy Storage Alliance. And our 4th speaker was Mike Nicholas. He serves as an energy storage specialist and fire consultant with Hiller Companies. And he was a captain and assistant fire marshal for Kern County Fire Department for 26 years. So those were our 4 speakers. The FAQs are broken down for those 4 individuals. So you'll have kind of an idea of who our experts in subject matter, our industry experts and subject matter experts were. So with that, I'd kind of like to go into the slide deck presentation. Again, hopefully this helps us kind of boil down all of the details that, that our speakers in our presentations and what we covered over the last 2 workshops. And is that monitor working okay, David? Can everybody see it? I guess that one's not working on that side. Okay, okay. All right, well, hopefully you can see the one to your left, my right. Okay, so David's going to control the slides for me, so we're going to go ahead and have him get started. So what are the primary motivations for a rapid global transition to 100% wind, water, and solar energy? And again, this is what Dr. Jacobson had presented. So if we can go to the next one. So a rapid global transition to 100% wind, water, and solar is urgently needed due to severe problems caused by fossil fuels and bioenergy. These include approximately 7.4 million air pollution deaths annually worldwide, costing estimated $30 trillion per year. Furthermore, the increasing scarcity of fossil fuels will lead to higher energy prices and contribute to economic, political, and social instability. So how does wind, water, and solar solution propose to meet global energy demands across all sectors? The wind, water, solar solution aims to meet all energy demands by electrifying or providing direct heat for every sector: electricity heat, transportation, buildings, industry, and supplying this energy with 100% wind, water, and solar sources. So what types of energy storage are crucial for a 100% wind, water, solar system to ensure grid stability? To ensure grid stability with 100% WWS, various types of energy storage are crucial, and these include pumped hydro storage, existing hydroelectric, batteries, flywheels, compressed air, gravitational storage, grid hydrogen, and fuel cells. So what significant reductions in energy demand and costs are projected with global transition to wind, water, and solar by 2050? A global transition to WAS by 2050 is projected to lead to a significant 54.2% reduction in end-use power demand compared to business as usual. And this efficiency gain comes from. So before I get into that bullet point, this is one thing I really wanted to highlight, because I think this is really important that Dr. Jacobson had conveyed to us, is that, and I had this, it changed my mind, or my understanding, is that in the future, I always thought the demand for electricity was going to be higher. And that's a conversation that's been going on for a while, that basically all these new electric vehicles that were coming out, that everything basically we're going to have to generate all this additional electricity. And what Dr. Jacobson had conveyed to us is that that's not true, that actually we're going to use less energy if we move to this wind, water, and solar, which I found absolutely fascinating. And the reason why was because 19.8% from the higher efficiency of battery electric and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles versus internal combustion engines. So internal combustion engines lose roughly 80% in the form of heat. So an electric vehicle versus an internal combustion engine is going to be more highly efficient. So if we have those instead of all of this fossil fuel burning, the efficiency level goes up, our demand is going to go down. So I just wanted to make sure that point was particularly clear, because I found it changing my perspective, my view of what the future looked like in terms of our power needs. 4.1% from the efficiency of electric industrial processes, kind of the same thing. You know, the electricity is just going to be more, much more efficient. 13.1% from the efficiency of heat pumps. And 10.6 from eliminating energy use in fuel mining, moving and processing. In terms of cost, WWS is projected to reduce annual energy costs by 61%, and total economic social costs, including fuel, health, and climate, by 92%. So they're referring to the deaths that currently fossil fuels are creating for us, and that the social costs, including fuel, health, and climate, are going to be reduced by 92%. And obviously, we're not going to be mining all of the oil and coal that we're currently using right now. I'm sure there's going to be an argument and a comment about lithium that's going to be mined too as well. So it's not completely 100% free from that. Why is battery storage crucial for achieving California's renewable energy goals? So battery storage is essential because renewable energy sources like solar and wind are intermittent. Solar generates electricity when the sun shines and wind power when the wind blows, but not consistently. Batteries balance these intermittent renewables by storing excess energy generated during peak production times, midday for solar, and dispatching it during high demand, low generation periods. This came directly from Dennis Dyke O'Neill's presentation. So for those of you that don't understand, or maybe you're a little bit new to this, I feel like this is a very important concept that we want to make sure that we all understand. Probably most of the people in the audience understand that, but I'm going to do it for anybody online. So basically, solar is all collected during the day, obviously when the sun's out. When we come home from work, the evening begins, the solar goes away. So we have this peak, we have all this energy coming down, and some of it is lost if we can't collect it all. When is our need? In the evening, when we're turning on our lights, running our dishwashers, running our clothes washers. So battery energy storage then delivers that collected energy during the day and makes it available into the evenings. That's the balancing act that battery energy storage plays for us. So this process helps stabilize the grid. It reduces reliance on expensive and polluting combustion-based generation and captures curtailed, wasted solar energy, which would otherwise be lost. For California to meet its 100% renewable goal by 2045, it's estimated that 52,000 megawatts of battery storage will be needed. And Kalita mentioned that in her presentation. Without sufficient storage, the state cannot transition off fossil fuels affordably, as customers would revert to cheaper gas alternatives. What are the main challenges and safety considerations associated with battery storage? From a safety perspective, the industry is addressing incidences, which EPRI defines as any need for emergency safety response. While there have been incidences primarily involving older magnesium cobalt battery technology, the overall rate of incidents has dramatically reduced in the United States, seeing a 97% drop. Key battery safety design changes include internally cooled systems, separate fire suppression with battery containers, the ability to derate individual modules to prevent thermal runaway. I had to look up what derate means, so I want to kind of clarify that a little bit too for anybody that maybe doesn't understand that. They're going to remotely have the ability to discharge or to prevent additional charging of those individual cells. There'll be more individual control in order to basically power down that particular cell. That was my understanding of it, but we can always ask the experts too if I'm off base on that. So the ability to derate individual modules to prevent thermal runaway. Increase spacing between outdoor battery modules from 18 inches to 6.5 to 10.5 feet, with some new facilities opting for 28 feet. The industry has also largely shifted to more stable lithium iron phosphate batteries. How has the regulation and technology of battery storage evolved to address safety concerns? Following incidences, particularly at Moss Landing, the battery storage industry and regulators have implemented significant changes. The California Public Utilities Commission approved General Order 167C, bringing battery energy storage facilities under the same regulatory structure as other generating facilities with additional requirements. This includes mandates for approved maintenance and operation plans, coordination with local fire response as per SB 1383 and SB 38, comprehensive audits, and incident reporting. And obviously we've got SB 283 that's also working its way through the legislation. Technologically, the industry has moved away from less stable magnesium cobalt batteries toward lithium iron phosphate batteries, which are more stable, even if less efficient. New installations are exclusively outdoor and incorporate design features like independent fire suppression systems, derating capabilities, and significant separation between modules to prevent thermal runaway and fire spread. How does battery storage contribute to community resilience and equity? Battery storage significantly enhances community resilience by providing backup power during outages caused by power safety shutoff grid failures, or natural disasters. For individual residences, a battery coupled with solar ensures power during outages. For community facilities like cooling centers, on-site battery backup is absolutely critical. And from an equity standpoint, battery storage displaces expensive and polluting gas-fired peaker plants, which are often located in underserved communities and contribute to health issues like asthma and lung disease. Battery storage provides a significant health benefit to these populations. Before we go on to the next slide, I just want to talk about that bullet point for a little bit. So peaker plants, I want to make sure that everybody understands what peaker plants are, basically how they work. So basically the grid is a balancing act. And this is a lot from what I've read with Dennis Dyke O'Neill's presentation. So I'm stealing some of his content. So credit to Dennis. It's a balancing act. So basically the exact amount of power has to be delivered to the grid, matching the exact demand. So I think I had a different perspective on what the grid was, that it was just this endless bucket that we just went in and then we just scooped out as much power as we needed. If I was going to turn my air conditioner up, there was always going to be power there. But the way it works is somebody on the other end is watching my demand, watching all of our demands. And if that goes up, they have to meet that demand in some way. So that's going to be done by a peaker plant. I learned a little bit more about peaker plants too. And basically they're typically gas fired. They're available because you can easily turn them on. The demand needs to be given right away. So they turn these gas fired power plants on. They're not coal, because coal takes too long to heat up in order to boil that water to turn that turbine. So gas fired is the way that it goes, but it's expensive and it's dirty. And I wanted to make sure that everybody understood peaker plants. The idea is to get rid of these peaker plants because it benefits us from an environmental standpoint and also from an economical standpoint too. Because when those peaker plants are fired up, guess who pays the bills? We all do. So batteries basically offload that and take it away from peaker plants. And that's going to be cheaper because the sun's free. So we should see economic benefits from battery storage by eliminating peaker plants, both environmentally and economically. So on to the next slide. Why do lithium-ion batteries currently dominate the energy storage market? So lithium-ion batteries currently dominate the energy storage market primarily due to significant advancements in their performance and durability. Coupled with a dramatic 90% decline in cost between 2010 and 2023, this cost reduction was driven by massive investment and economies of scale, fueled by demand from consumer goods, battery energy storage systems, and electric vehicles. They boost high round-trip efficiency, 85 to 90%, excellent energy density, and improved durability and fast response times. And I just want to highlight that fast response times are really important, right? Because when the demand goes up, when we have a heat wave and everybody cranks their air conditioner up, we need that energy now. That's the reason why the peaker plants are used, because they have a fast response time. That's the reason why batteries are beneficial. They have a fast response time. What is battery energy storage systems and why is fire safety a critical concern? So BESS refers to systems that store electrical energy in batteries for later use. Fire safety is a critical concern due to the potential for thermal runaway in batteries, which can lead to fires. While BESS failure rates have significantly decreased by 97% between 2018 and 2023, due to improved codes and manufacturing, the inherent risks necessitate rigorous safety measures. So there's been a lot of conversation between lithium and sodium batteries. Why not go to sodium? So I wanted to basically have a slide here that explains some of that. So sodium batteries, the energy density is lower. Sodium ions are larger and heavier than lithium ions, which limits how much energy they can be stored per unit of weight or volume. For big stationary systems, weight isn't as critical, but lower density means larger installations and higher balance of plant costs, land, housing, cabling, and cooling. So a sodium battery versus a lithium ion battery is going to take a bigger footprint than a lithium ion battery. Commercial maturity and supply chain. Lithium ion has a 25+ year head start in research, manufacturing, and development. Gigafactory supply chains and financing models are already optimized for lithium. Sodium ion is still in the pilot demo stage. Banks and utilities are hesitant to finance unproven technologies at this scale yet. Cycle life and performance. Sodium ion batteries today generally have shorter life cycles, shorter cycle lives than lithium ion phosphate cells, though this is improving. They also typically have slower charge or discharge rates, limiting their usefulness in fast response grid services. Cost competitiveness so far, and that's important because sodium ion is developing. I think it's the time scale that we're looking at. So there's a lot of questions I know that's been in the general public. Why not sodium ion? So sodium is far more abundant and cheaper than lithium, but the manufacturing process isn't yet scaled. But I think in the future it will be. Until sodium ion production reaches high volumes, lithium ion still wins on dollar per kilowatt installed in most projects. Bankability and standards. Utilities and developers need technologies that are certified, insurable, and financeable. And lithium ion has a long track record, safety standards, warranties, and field data. Sodium ion lacks the level of trust and long-term reliability at the moment. What are the key safety standards and codes that govern BESS installations? Several key safety standards and codes govern BESS installations to ensure safety and prevent hazards. UL 9540 covers integrated systems, battery management systems, inverters, and interconnection equipment. UL 9540A, a standard test method for evaluating thermal runaway fire propagation in BESS at cell, module, and unit levels. NFPA 855 provides guidelines for the installation of stationary energy storage systems, including proper setbacks to prevent fire propagation. NFPA 69 focuses on explosion prevention systems, often involving hydrogen sensors and active ventilation. And NFPA 72, the National Fire Alarm and Signaling Code, which dictates fire alarm system design and monitoring. An International Fire Code and National Electrical Code provide broader safety requirements. And then the next slide I lifted completely out of Mike Nicholas's presentation. So this is what a unit looks like, a battery energy storage system unit or container looks like. And I thought Mike did an amazing job at identifying where each one of these regulations apply to the particular equipment. And I found it particularly informative, so. What information should developers include in a BESS submission to fire authorities? To ensure a thorough review and approval, developers must include comprehensive documentation in their BESS submission to fire authorities, and this includes hazard mitigation analysis with a fire risk analysis specific to the chosen technology, failure modes and effects analysis, and details on NFPA 69 compliant systems, including their performance in large-scale fire tests. Crucially, burn test results from UL 9540A and other large-scale fire tests, along with technology listings, are required. Emergency response plans for all phases: construction, commissioning, operations, and decommissioning. Incident reporting procedures, triggers for notifying fire authorities when safety systems are offline, detailed testing and maintenance plans for fire life safety systems, including auxiliary backup power. And site layout plans are also vital, showing the incident command post location, fire water tank size and location, auxiliary backup power design, and refueling considerations, and proper enclosure spacing based on burn test results. So Mike had talked about that. So when the fire department shows up, they know what the system looks like. They know where things are. What ongoing testing and maintenance are required for best fire safety systems? Documentation of maintenance reports for local fire departments, SB 38 and General Order 167C, mandate that best operators to collect and submit documentation regarding ongoing fire system testing and maintenance. Specific requirements including testing all fire alarm initiation and notification devices, servicing and maintaining fire pumps per manufacturer and code requirements, and ensuring all concentration reduction system components, exhaust fan, louvers, air filters are operational. How often should best operators and fire departments conduct multi-agency incident response training? Ongoing multi-agency incident response training is essential to ensure alignment between best operators and first responders, especially as new technologies are introduced or compound phases change. It's recommended that contact lists for operations staff are updated and shared with local fire department at least semi-annually. Site staff must be trained on incident reporting procedures and prepared to provide critical information to first responders. An annual tabletop multi-agency drill with the local fire department and operations staff is crucial to keep emergency response procedures current and expectations clear. And operations staff be trained in the incident command system to ensure common terminology and a reliable organizational structure for safe and timely incident mitigation. So the way I saw this, and I'm just bringing this up to commissioners too and the general public, the way I saw this is that after the installation goes in, that's not it. Like they just don't dust their hands with the fire department. There's ongoing training that is done with the local fire departments and basically the managers of the best facility. So that's what I got from that. What role do concentration reduction systems play in best fire safety and what standards apply to them? Concentration reduction systems are critical in best fire safety for managing combustible gas concentrations, particularly hydrogen, to prevent explosions. So these systems typically utilize hydrogen sensors in conjunction with active ventilation to purge any gas buildup, keeping the concentration below 25% of the lower explosive limit. NFPA 69, the standard on explosion prevention systems, governs the design and performance of these systems. It's crucial that these systems are designed in conjunction with a site controller and often include uninterrupted power supply, UPS, and a small generator to ensure they are not reliant on grid power for operation. And the fire alarm design also needs to monitor key points with the concentration reduction system. So I did want to talk about this a little bit because it seems a little confusing. And the way I understood it, and we can bring this up for conversation too, obviously, is that if there is a failure in the unit and gas starts to build up, that there are sensors that basically note that, and ventilation systems allow that gas to be taken out of the container in order to prevent basically any type of issues with that particular container. So that's where NFPA 69 comes in, the standard on explosion prevention systems. So that was a concern of mine, obviously, and also, wanted to make sure that I was clear in understanding that. So on the next slide. So that's basically kind of the overview that we put together based on the presentations. The FAQ goes into much more detail, obviously, but I feel like those were kind of the highlights. I didn't go into long duration energy storage. Those are technologies that are coming down the road, but they are in the FAQ, and Scott Murdishaw talked about that kind of in more detail. So with that, we're going to open up for any discussion with the commissioners. So we're just going to give about 5 or 10 minutes for that if anybody has any questions. And then we'll open up to the general public because I know you guys are going to want to comment on that for sure. So do we have any questions from the commission at all? And you guys all have copies of the FAQs as well too. So any questions down the road, you can always submit to David too as well. All right, I don't see any questions from commissioners. Why don't we go ahead and open it up to the general public? And I'll just have you guys line up real quick first. We'll get an idea and then we'll go online, David, to questions online. And if you could say your name too and into the microphone, that would be great.
Okay, my name is Drew Lewis. I think we are being scammed I recommend that everybody see the documentary Climate the Movie on YouTube. It's really a good expose of the scam that's going on. First, I went to LinkedIn and looked at Robert Shaw's profile. He's the current CEO of 3CE. He is an attorney that has had experience as an attorney at the city of Long Beach and some law firms. He was a deputy county council for Monterey County from 2017 to 2019. Then he went to work at 3CE in 2019. He began as general counsel, then chief operating officer, and now CEO. He has no energy experience. Let me repeat that. Robert Shaw has no energy experience. I reviewed the financial statements for the year ended 9/30/24. Essentially, 3CE enters into contracts to purchase electricity. They don't own any energy facilities. They use PG&E's existing infrastructure to deliver electricity. So they essentially hold a portfolio of contracts, cash, and investments. At the end of 9/30/2024, they had 327 million in assets. 150 million was cash and 76 in short-term and long-term investments, generally U.S. Treasuries. They also have a loan receivable from the county of Santa Cruz for 1.3 million to acquire electric generating equipment. The financial statements state that 3CE is working towards 100% clean and renewable energy portfolio and is currently negotiating several agreements to add generation and energy storage to move closer to that goal. While the targeted timeline for achieving this goal is 2030, 3CE may choose to extend it at a later date. I'll let my other associate here continue this until we're finished.
Good evening. First, I want to really thank you all for your amazing attention to this and putting on these series of workshops. And I really appreciate what you did in terms of gathering all these facts so you can help the Board of Supervisors in their process of deciding. And the big thing that came up from your presentation for me is, what about the systems that surround Santa Cruz right now that need to be updated safety-wise? And how do we make sure that the permits that are going through right now, and even though they haven't been permitted through the county because we don't have an ongoing ordinance yet, how do we make sure that they comply to these safety issues that have been brought up? And I'm hoping that that gets built into the new ordinances that happen before they are permitted to put these in place. And to continue on, from what Drew was saying, the income statement shows a net operating loss for 3CE of 36.5 million for the year ended 9/30/24. This loss includes an expense of 7.8 million paid in staff compensation, which includes health benefits and contributions to its defined contribution retirement plan. And that seems to be a question mark for me in terms of, we are now paying the business structure for PG&E and 3CO when it goes into the cost of our energy. And so no matter what, we're covering the overhead of two different providers. And so that seems like an extra cost. From the 3CE website in 2002, California passed the California's Community Choice Aggregation Law, which transfers service from investor-owned utilities to local community choice aggregators, CCA. 3CE is California's first operating CCA, and I know I noticed that they have now added San Luis Obispo County to their counties that they're now going to be covering. So anyway, I want all these details which seem kind of minor, but when looking at the bigger picture, it's really good to see how these things interrelate to one another. And are we really lowering our energy costs? I mean, I've had people in the community compare. I own 2 properties, and one has 3 CE energy and one has PG&E. And so far, originally, which might account for their loss, 3 CE was less expensive initially, but now is more expensive than PG&E. So as they're trying to make a profit, I'm wondering if they're actually going to provide less expense energy-wise. So I'd like to put that question out there for you all. And thank you so much. I really appreciate all the energy that you all are putting in to helping us understand all this process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Ken Stearns. One thing I've taken from this, just this one discussion and Mr. Laird's discussion is they've been putting the horse before the cart or the cart before the horse. I'm not hearing of any Cal OSHA standards, any OSHA standards. Doesn't seem to me that there's any federal regulation, any safety standards that are in place to take care of these systems. They have UL, which is a industry volunteer system, but NFPA, whatever, and that's for the fires. But I'm not seeing anything, and I haven't heard of anything of safety standards being applied by our government agencies. What Laird right now is coming up with safety standards that hopefully is going to pass the assembly. Meanwhile, we've had these systems in place for what, 10, 15 years? I know our last speaker, Mr. Nicholas, he told specifically when in 2019, he went into, he's in charge of this system, and he looked at it, there was no standards in place, and he had to develop his own standards for what was the biggest at that time, or is the biggest, plant that's being in place in operation. Meantime, the biggest plant in the world in Moss Landing burned down, and there was no regulations in place for that. I'm not against these type of battery systems, but I'm really concerned about the safety of them. I'm concerned that everybody's talking about safety standards. Has anybody talked to the insurance companies for these areas that are going to have these plants in place? Are they going to be losing their house insurance because of increased risk for fires? That's one of my big concerns. But again, it comes down to, I'm really disgusted and amazed that there are not more federal and state standards in place. And we're just now coming to try and determine that, oh yeah, maybe we ought to have something in place. And I appreciate the job you guys are doing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Marilyn Mariposa Bernstein. I'm a licensed acupuncturist, and this was the last meeting that I heard about. I mean, the first meeting I heard about. So I want to say also thank you for the thoroughness. It seems that you presented these last few things. There's a lot I don't understand, but I'm kind of the Lorax. I'm trying to speak for the trees and the people, especially our farm worker community in Watsonville. And I know Assembly Member Don Addis also had a bill. I don't know the number, maybe
303, I think.
303, not to have it near schools. I live right across the freeway from Dominican Hospital, and I look out, my senior condo over the hill where things would be. And it's a nightmare. I mean, I don't know if any of you, drive in this town. Obviously, people were affected by an accident coming this direction, but it takes me almost an hour to go home from my office around the corner here on Dakota to 17th Avenue with the bridge down. So if there were an emergency, like what happened in January, and the bridge had been down, I mean, it was a nightmare. I had my student that night had to go home because she was being evacuated from Moss Landing. Her husband's a doctor. She's a former nurse and acupuncture student. They've been taking tissue samples. things are not conclusive, but it is very scary. People have been coming into our clinic with respiratory things. And what I don't understand, and maybe this could be presented, is why when we have many areas that are barren, flat, it may be something like, I don't understand how much distance has to go for the energy, but it seems, why would you, I was shocked. I didn't even know these things were at Moss Landing by Elkhorn Slough, one of the most, beautiful and sensitive environment right next to the ocean, right, with lots of farms. Why would you put something like that there? And the one I think that's supposed to be proposed in Watsonville, I'm not exactly sure of the location, but I think there's like 5 schools within a couple of miles of it, and it's largely Hispanic. So again, is this an issue of environmental racism? So I just want to speak for the people that maybe don't know about it, and I don't understand a lot about it. I learned a lot tonight. I feel more positive about lithium, though I think it's worth holding out for the next generation, which may be not sodium, but are lithium, but aren't as fire sensitive. But it costs more, and these CEOs don't want to pay it. So I don't know if that was really a question to mull over, but I do wanted to thank you all for your work, and all of you here too.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, Becky Steinbruner. I also want to thank you for putting on these workshops. It has been very disappointing that none of the county supervisors has been willing to hold a town hall meeting in their district, especially in those districts where there are projects planned, like District 4 and the 90 Minto Road Seahawk Energy Storage System that is in permitting process right now. So thank you. I would have appreciated sort of a disclaimer at the beginning of the presentation that this was your interpretation of condensing the material, because I really think that some of the material was not balanced. And I think a disclaimer is in order. But I appreciate your summarizing everything like that. I don't agree with a lot of it, but a disclaimer, I think, is in order. The issue that bothers me about only talking about SB 283 is that there are other really good bills out there, like AB 303 from Assemblymember Addis, like AB 434 by Assemblymember DeMaio, that have very good points, and they should be on your discussion list here too. They should be at this table. And so I'm disappointed that the focus is all on Senator Laird's representation, and I would like to see more balance in that as well. The problem I see with Senator Laird's bills, both 38 and 283, is there really is no enforcement. There really is no enforcement. There's all this, you must, but how is that enforced? And in fact, the Vistra Moss Landing plant that burned had none of this, had no plans, had nothing. And some say, well, that was approved before this came about. Why is it not required? Why are these older systems not required to be brought up to code, to be brought into compliance? So that bothers me a lot, that there really is no enforcement in this issue, as Senator Laird's legislation brings it to us. I also noted that the discussions focus on residential power use, and the big draw is industrial power use, and there's no discussion of that. That's huge. And we need to be considering that as well. The problem with bringing depending on the fire officials to be watching over these is they are not well trained. I have gone to Pajaro Valley Fire District. They have received tabletop training from New Leaf Energy for the Seahawk thing. They are not well trained. And they are hesitant to take this bull by the horns and do anything. Our county fire marshal is hesitant to really step in and be our strong advocate, which was what was really brought home in the state fire marshal's battery fire safety symposium in Sacramento last month. They implored the fire officials, you've got to be at the table early on. You have got to do this. But I see a real reticence in our county, and that worries me. I really do. And a lot of it is political. So we cannot sit back and depend that our fire officials will watch over us, because they're not going to. I don't think they're going to, because of the political pressures of 3CE, of the county of Santa Cruz, and the money that is invested in lithium. Finally, I want to really say that this risk assessment for Seahawk, I have seen it, and it is a joke. It does not even include any of the dense subdivisions around. And you know, your summary of NFPA 69 talks about venting. What else will be vented? And these are going to be down, these units will be upwind flowing right to these residential areas. And the College Lake. What are we doing here? What are we willing to accept? What is our county staff willing to accept? I'm very worried. I'm very worried, and I'm worried that now that the county supervisors have postponed reviewing the ordinance for a year, we will fall by the way path that Nipomo did. Their project there got approved because there was no ordinance to stop it. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky.
Hi, good evening. My name is Gregory Audino. And again, I want to thank all of you for participating as commissioners on this board. And because I know you guys are volunteering and spending your time, and you're all county members. You all live in our county, and that's what this is all about. It's our county. Okay. If you look on the wall right there, you have a beautiful map of our county, the second smallest county in this state. The smallest county being San Francisco County. And yet there's not one best facility going into San Francisco County at this time. Who knows, right? The majority of the Bay Area is void of best facilities, even being planned. Small one in Santa Clara has to do with the city. Alameda County, way east Alameda County, is a best facility. That's it. San Mateo County, nothing. San Francisco, Marin, they're trying to fight one in Marin, we all know about. Oakland area, nothing. So, but yet Monterey County, Moss Landing, San Benito County gets one. Merced County out by Los Banos, they're getting 3. Okay. The biggest thing for our county being so condensed and so small with population and farms is that the 90 Minto Road facility, which is basically where they really want to put one in, is surrounded by pristine or excellent farm fields, you know, productive berry and produce right there, right? It's an apple orchard at this moment, producing apples. They're 100-year-old trees. They're going to plow it under, of course, you know, cut them down, take them out. I've seen it done before and turned into berry fields. How long is this going to be there? Where will we be in 20 years, in 30 years? This facility, if it's built, will be there 20 or 30 years from now. What are we leaving for our future? Okay. Basically by allowing this to happen. That's, it's something to think about, is that it all has to deal with all of us and our future, our children, our grandchildren, that type of thing. What are we leaving them? The issue with the lithium ion, it's very dense and it holds lots of energy and it's efficient. Every time you hear that word efficient, think money, because the power companies earn money on efficient equipment. Okay. And I understand they're in business. All businesses need to make money. The thing is when you look at, be careful what you ask for, had said, well, you can use that both ways, not just one way. Yeah, he's trying to scare us that we're going to have blackouts in extreme weather. Well, we already have blackouts in extreme weather. It happens quite often, especially people farther up in the hills, because of one limb hitting a power line and the whole system up there shuts down. And, talk about single thermal runaway. Yes, one container will contain one single thermal runaway. I've spoken to, in the last 2 weeks, 2 different fire chiefs and local, and they said, yeah, lithium, yeah. All we can do is stand back, let it burn. Control, protect around it to keep that from spreading, of course, but they can't put it out. They know that. So if you have one thermal runaway, it can happen. What happens over 20 years? How many more happen? And around 90 Minto Road, if you've been out to the facility, I implore you to just drive out. It's easy enough. You go to Green Valley Road to Minto Road, make a right, and within a quarter mile, you're there. Bring a pickup truck, stand on the tailgate or in the bed and look out. And you can see the houses. You're going to drive through houses to get there, housing. People literally live right there. You're going to see the field itself, that it's south facing, down sloping to the south, which is obviously excellent for growing, especially later in the year because of sunlight. College Lake right there, it's like a L-shaped lake that right now is a little low because it's towards the end of the year, but that's exactly what that is there for. It is water reclamation. There are people who live right there who said that, I've got high water table, so you have water right there. So it's like we have the environment to protect for us, for our future, for our county, not just, for right now, we have to solve this problem right now. It was brought up earlier in the very first meeting that I think it was Bob Culberson, the commissioner from the 4th District, had mentioned. He was sitting there and he had said that he understood that New Leaf has a project in the Central Valley also, and that this system was supposed to back that up, help store energy from that one. It's not necessarily all for us. So a lot of this needs to be discovered. And obviously all of us are learning about all of this. And there's a massive amount of information that all of us are, learning and gathering about the facilities themselves, about each container. Hope you guys have, you have a lot to do, and we all have a lot to do. And I appreciate your time and for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bob Lyons, and I live about half a mile from the proposed Minto Road site. And I walk along that way every day. And I've gone to, this is about my 5th or 6th meeting about this issue. And some of the things that they've all said are really important, very important things. We are very worried about this possible site in the Pajaro Valley. And people, they can't just come here like I did. I'm retired. But there are thousands of people along Green Valley Road and the other roads around where this site may be. And I've talked to people from the company, and I've asked them questions like, why not put this over in the Central Valley and just put wires over to our county? You know, and he just says it's kind of expensive. So there are a lot of issues to deal with this. And the College Lake issue, they've just channeled College Lake into a system to be put in the ground for agriculture. And if this new battery storage goes bad, it could poison that water. It's right next to College Lake, this system is, and it's on the lesser earthquake zone called the Zayante, I forget the second name, Zayante zone. And remember, I was in Watsonville in 1989 with the earthquake, and I lived in the same place I live now, and we were out of power for 5 days. And the owner of this new facility is saying, this will give you power for 4 hours, you know. So what's the big deal about that? You know, it's a gigantic danger. If it really gets to that point, there's going to be protests in Watsonville all over the place because people are not happy with this. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dave, just real quick, and before, how many hands do we have hands up?
We have 3 hands up online.
Okay, I just wanted to check first. Okay, go ahead, Nina, I'm sorry.
Thank you for being here and for hosting these. I'm sorry that we missed Matthew today. I did find his article because I'm online all the time doing research and leading a group of concerned residents. So I'm organizing something all the time. And I'm sorry he's not here for me to meet and talk to. So I am going to share some questions I had about what he wrote into the record, and also just for general education. He contended in the article that while best fires do produce toxic smoke, so does every other fire he's been to in 23 years as a firefighter. He forgot to mention HF gas in his article. Also, I want to draw your attention to like what Becky was saying. HF gas is also not part of the OCA or the hazard assessment that New Leaf Energy submitted. They never mention it. So he also didn't mention that lithium fires can't be suppressed, like my husband said, and everyone in here knows that. In fact, current firefighting training mandates that these fires are allowed to burn themselves out. They often burn for hours, 10 hours or more is common, sometimes for days, and that's just one container burning. At the recent July 24th California State Fire Marshal's Best Fire Safety Symposium, this strategy of standing by while the fire combusts through all available batteries for hours was described repeatedly as a successful failure designed to protect firefighters' lives. Matthew also forgot to mention that HF gas is highly reactive to water, becoming hydrofluoric acid in fog or wet conditions. It drops on the ground. It's extremely corrosive, like acid, and it can burn surfaces it comes into contact with, like skin, for instance. So the fact is, for these reasons and a lot of other reasons, lithium fires in utility scale BESS facilities are not accurately comparable to a house fire or a vehicle fire. There's also information about this in the government. The government has done studies on this, and they have statistics that show how much more HF is produced in a utility scale BESS facility as opposed to, say, a lithium driven car. I also want to comment on the fact that there's a frequent citing of the fact that these fires are very rare. Between April of 22 and April of 25, there were 8 fires in California. I don't consider that rare. And so there's an organization called cleanview.co that is tracking these facilities as they go up. And they say, reputable apparently reputable. Everybody uses them. And they say that by August of this year, there are 218 utility scale best facilities up and running in California. During the same fire symposium, the woman representing GoBiz quoted a statistic. She said that in order to meet the goal for 2045, we're going to have to put in about 6,000 to 7,000 megawatts a year for the next 10 years. And she explained that they have estimated from experience that 6,000 to 7,000 megawatts is equivalent to about 100 utility scale BESS a year. So you can do the math. In about 10 years, we're going to have 1,000 more of these. And that supposedly will meet the goal that is established right now. But I wanted to ask you, don't you think that over the next 10 years, that figure of 52, which I've also seen quoted recently as 54 and 55, not 52, don't you think that figure is going to go up a little bit because population is going up and everything else is going up? And so one of my questions is, where's the cap to this or the limit? So the more electricity we need, the more intensive and energy intensive batteries we're going to need, right? And the more these facilities are going to go up. I wanted to also ask you to consider the following. According to a very fast search online, I found a statement that said that the vast majority of these BESS facilities in California are going onto unincorporated land, Aggie land, because there's huge problems with getting it permitted otherwise in municipalities. There is an estimated 40 million plus acres of unincorporated land in California. So you can get a calculator and calculate 40, 45 million and divide that by 1,218 BESS facilities. So how many acres are, how many acres are we going to have a BESS? And that's just for starters. So what is this going to look like in the future again? And so if we really do need these many facilities, don't you think we should be investing everything we have and all of our talent and all of our smarts, everything we have, finances, everything we have to do what the federal government did in November of last year when they funded for 50 million, seeded 50 million for starters, the LENS consortium that I spoke about already here, 8 labs are leading labs, Argonne, Stanford, Berkeley, and 6 universities, 14 labs that have been instructed to come up with an alternative to lithium as fast as possible that is as energy intensive. And so I think what you're hearing from people over and over again is, what is the rush? This county has married itself to the 3 CE goal of 2030, but the state's goal is 2045. And the federal government already understands, and so does California, because they funded alternative battery also. They understand that there is an end game to this. How many of these facilities are we going to have around us? And they are not safe. 8 fires in 3 years. I also wanted to say, I'm going to try to do this quickly, but I want to get it into the record. I wanted to say that in these 8 fires, they were not tested properly. We don't have results, sampling results for the poisons that come from these fires. We don't have them from Vistra. They blew that at Vistra also. So when the industry lobbies like CISA and Clean Power make statements to the governor's office in California that there's no harm, that nothing happened, there's nothing in the air, there's nothing in the soil, there's nothing in the water, but they didn't test for it. As long as we don't test for these, of course, the statement is going to be there's no problem. It's called denial. Until you see results, until the testing is done and you see the results, you can deny it forever. I know that this is also linked to the agriculture question, and we're all scared that this is going to come out and then what's going to happen with our agricultural economy. I get that, but I don't think that sweeping this under the rug and ignoring it while all these facilities go up in the thousands in our state is going to solve this. So I also just wanted to say that I deeply appreciate your efforts, and especially you, Chris. I deeply appreciate this forum, that you created this forum. Good for you, because there is a huge absence from the supervisors, and we're not understanding why, and there's no other forum other than the public meetings that we've created. And I'm really grateful for that. But I want to say also that there has been overwhelming bias in these presentations. So, for example, specifically, we haven't heard from even a single engineer, a qualified PhD engineer in materials science and engineering, or in chemical engineering, or in electrical engineering, because these are the people who understand the battery world, not people who are directors of lobbies, not people like you heard Drew describe, who are ex-attorneys who are now CEOs of very large companies. Those are not the people who understand how batteries run. At the fire symposium, there was a Dr. Wang. He has undergraduate degrees in environmental engineering and thermal engineering, a master's and PhD in mechanical engineering. He presented last in the symposium. He presented a carefully curated selection of facts that took issue with the state's and Vistra's claims about air quality safety after Vistra's toxic lithium battery fire, and with other such claims from other fires. He had slides, they're beautiful slides, where he presented these are untruths. We're not telling the public the truth here. He's available, he would come. So my question to you is, I'm just wondering, would you be willing to maybe host, I mean, if we're really postponing this for anywhere between now and next August, would you be willing to host a more balanced presentation and invite people to speak to this who are not going to promote the lithium solution? Because what we've heard here is the lithium solution. That's basically it. And it's not the only thing that's out there. And it is, I agree with you, it is a matter of time. It is about time, but I think maybe it's worth it that we at least let the public hear about what else is really out there, instead of 45 minutes from Murtashaw ripping up all the alternatives and saying they're just not here, so we're not going to even forget about it. They're not worth even paying attention to. He also never mentioned anything about LENS, the LENS Consortium. I think those are the main things I wanted to share with you guys.
Thank you, Nina. We do appreciate it. Definitely your time and effort.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I
Okay.
know I took a while. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. I'm Jenny Johnson. I used to be one of you for many years. Thanks for substituting me for the future. I can be a grandma now. And I do have a great, very deep background in both energy and environmental policy, both in the nonprofit and public sectors, almost approaching 30 years. I want to thank this commission for hosting these workshops. I agree with the previous speaker. It's been very valuable. I really appreciate the extensive level of preparation and the work that went into the workshop. It's really obvious that it was a lot of work, and it's very much appreciated. I will disagree with the prior speaker in that the experts were highly qualified and trained to speak to these topics. Their biographies speak to themselves. They aren't here to enrich themselves. They came with scientific proof and data, and I've appreciated that information. I've learned a ton, and I hope all of you have as well. This is a very, very complex topic. And without you hosting these workshops, we would not have been able to dive into the complexities, and there's still more to learn. You haven't, even with all these hours of testimony, all the experts, all of the great members of the public who have participated and shared their thoughts, there's still much to learn. But I'd like to focus right now at this moment on the process that our county is undergoing right now, because I have a concern that has not been expressed tonight. And it's very important. I think the information that's been shared over these many hours dispels much of the misinformation that's been put out there on social media and in the ether. And I really appreciated today's Lookout opinion piece. I thought that was very helpful as well. But I also recognize the safety concerns. Why would we not be concerned? Why would all these members of the public who have greatly participated in this process and all of their safety concerns, why should they not be fearful after Moss Landing? I understand. These concerns absolutely have to be addressed before we can move forward with a project in this county. I appreciate the state legislation. The legislation that we heard about tonight is the only one that's actually passed that has any possibility of it being signed by the governor. That's why the other legislation wasn't given the same air. They've been stuck in committee. So again, I appreciate you hosting these workshops. I've noticed your next agenda item is considering an ad hoc committee to compile all the information you've learned, which is largely in the FAQ document that you've produced. Thank you. And get it to your board. That's very important. And I really encourage you to do that. And I'll tell you why. Yesterday, your board took a very startling action. They delayed adopting a zoning ordinance for another year. And without that zoning ordinance in place, we will not be able to consider the Minto Lane proposed project or any other best project. And why is that important? We will lose our land use authority, our local land use authority, because if these proposed developers want to, they don't have to come to our county board or our planning department or this commission for that matter, although you don't do land use. They could go directly to the California Energy Commission and they can ask for their permit based on the law. I don't want our county to not address all the concerns we've heard tonight in all the many hours of these meetings. I want your concerns to be addressed. I might disagree with you on the expert testimony and the expert qualifications, but I can tell you, I want you to feel safe. I don't want this thing in my county unless it's safe. Absolutely not. And if we lose our land use authority, we will not have a public meeting where all of you can come and tell your board what you think. So I highly encourage your commission to form your ad hoc, get your information to our board. And I hope that our board reconsiders kicking this can a year down the road, because we do have a current project that's proposed that is, as Becky represented, in the planning department, but it can't even be evaluated without a zoning ordinance, which the board just delayed for another year. Now, that might sound like a good thing if you're against a best project, but it's not a good thing if we want to lose our land use authority. It's a scary thing for me. Everything I've heard in all these hours of this workshop, these workshops, I want them addressed. I hope you all want them addressed. I hope our board wants them addressed. I want a safe zoning ordinance, and I want every bit of every project proposed evaluated for its safety and all the concerns we've heard. Thank you for your time. Thank you for hosting these things and these workshops. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you send your report to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. So 3 hands. If we don't have anybody in the audience, 3 hands online. We'll go online.
Yes, we have 4 now. So,
4? Okay.
Diane, you should be allowed to unmute and speak.
And I think in the essence of time too, we're going to try 3 minutes if we can, everyone. I was trying to allow as much time as possible, but we still have to get through the ad hoc and a vote too. So we'll
All
keep
right.
an eye on the clock a little bit.
Okay,
Okay.
Diane, I'm
Hey.
starting the 3-minute timer.
Okay. Hey, good evening. John Laird recently said that before Moss Landing, he didn't think that 95% of Californians knew about battery energy storage before it happened. That's a kind of a scary thought for how underinformed we are. But regarding the 3 proposed BESS facilities planned in and around our neighborhoods, has this panel and other county officials really heard what we are saying and what we are opposed to? The opposition is not to battery energy storage itself. The opposition is to the use of lithium batteries in those facilities because lithium is highly flammable and toxic. This is our greatest concern. Lynn Blanchard of Sandia Labs recently said, currently we are using lithium batteries to do everything energy storage related. Lithium is not suited for everything. Because of lithium's toxic properties, we are witnessing the industry scrambling to develop newer and more effective safety mechanisms to hopefully mitigate this inherent problem. Wouldn't the wiser approach be to focus rigorous research on the development of non-toxic, non-flammable batteries that would be compatible with better battery energy storage needs and provide truly safety for people and the environment this entire green transition is aiming to protect? Save lithium for other purposes. When best resistance or opposition comes from communities like ours, It is because the industry is ignoring the very real danger grid-scale lithium batteries bring into our lives. With the overly aggressive goal of carbon neutrality in California by 2045 being thrust upon us, residents here and throughout the county are fighting to save our communities. Encountering people's opposition to lithium batteries should be a wake-up call to the industry, recognized as a red flag like any other problem that dictates an area of needed attention and improvement. Developing non-toxic, non-flammable batteries needs to be an immediate goal for state and industry leaders to pursue so these projects are safe when they are placed in California neighborhoods. Matthew was speaking a lot to safety, but frankly, people have become jaded by this mantra. Best sites have burned in California, across the country, and around the world. The industry is learning from these real-time disasters, and we don't want to be the next lithium battery storage site that is part of the live and learn process. What's needed are new and improved safety mechanisms that get longer testing periods to be proven safe. We need real, live, large-scale fire testing. It must be an industry standard. Plume studies for actual local weather patterns must be an industry standard. Monitoring systems must be designed to capture any and all toxins that are currently going undetected, like PFAS. Local, county-wide soil and water testing need to be precede a battery energy storage project, so background data is known and recorded before a disaster happens. Just a little bit more, because in closing, I just want to say that we heard that California is going to be quadrupling the amount of battery energy storage, by 2045. And if a truly safe battery is not developed to fit this need, we would be creating sacrificial communities throughout California, gambling that disasters won't be creating Superfund sites in their wake. Please understand that lithium battery best projects in close proximity to neighborhoods, schools, hospitals, prime agricultural lands, and ecosystems that depend on our vital support are unacceptable because they put all of this at risk. For safe battery technology that works to fulfill needs of all stakeholders, not just the investors. Thank you all for the whole thing tonight. I'm glad we got to speak, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Alex, you should be allowed to speak now.
Okay, hi. Chris, thank you for hosting this meeting. And I'd like to talk a little bit about what Matt Pace wrote. I'm going to quote just one sentence. I feel the real solution is to require the highest safety standards possible for any local projects, even exceeding state minimum when the technology is available. And I really thank him for this, because I believe that he is alluding to the fact that when there are physical constraints, like the parcel cannot accommodate the enhanced setbacks or fire department lanes, when environmental and hazard considerations, specifically separation from sensitive receptors, our neighborhoods, our hospitals, our schools, and the technology fit, when there are interconnection problems which are not optimal, are grounds for creating an ordinance which Seahawk or 3CE might say is anti-BESS, but it's not anti-BESS. We're not anti-technology, but we want it to fit well. Santa Cruz, is the second smallest county in California. We've never had a large grid scale power generation facility here, for good reason, where we occupy a small sandwich of land next to the coast, and we're just not suited for it. And I would like to support the idea that if a site can't be physically or operationally made to meet elevated safety standards, this includes the standards which were proposed this past month at the Sacramento Fire Marshal's meeting, that the project shouldn't proceed. It doesn't mean that we'll never go forward with energy. We get our energy from adjacent counties and benefit from improvements that they make. Anyway, that's my thought, and I hope that we can continue to have these dialogues. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. Next.
Okay, John, you should be allowed to speak now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I am Can Sar, Business Development Director at Infinity, a flow battery manufacturer. I attended the second workshop in person, and today I'm dialing from San Francisco. My first reflection was especially, I think, when debriefing past presentations, I would appreciate, I think, if the chair, you could consider debriefing the public comments in the past workshops, not just the presenters' comments, because I saw the debrief on an article for the first workshop and the second workshop. I felt a lot of tension in the room, and today it was similar. And I think it, in a sense, suppresses the public's view that is being voiced in these opportunities to be shared more widely. And it, in some ways, public coming here and participating in these workshops become also complicit in how, lithium safety concerns are, in a sense, all manageable and mitigatable, etc. Not eliminatable, but it can be mitigated. So I would encourage a debrief of that. And I also noticed that the second workshop video was not posted. So that was not available, I think. So these recordings are important, I think, for sharing information widely. So a few technical clarifications I want to make. Chair, you mentioned about derating. Derating really means not using the battery at full capacity. So understanding the dangers of that and using it at a lower capacity so that it doesn't cause issues. And in terms of response time, I also saw a coverage about the second workshop on a publication on a newspaper in Santa Cruz. It does mention, for example, alternative technologies being slower, such as flow batteries that I represent. And our product responds in less than 15 milliseconds, which is, there is no solution so far this grid connected that needs a response for less than 15 milliseconds. So there are sort of, in a sense, I want to think that maybe lack of awareness, and I'm also willing to stay in touch with the community. Becky Steinbrunner that spoke earlier today invited me to her radio show on Friday, and I encourage everyone to also look at that Santa Cruz Voice. We had a sit down for half an hour talking about alternative battery technologies, and I described how the features of non-flammable features of flow battery, and also I think one thing that is important to talk about here is like how lithium was designed for mobile applications, not for stationary applications, just like flow batteries are designed for stationary applications, not for mobile applications. So we are currently using and highly deploying a technology that's not for the right application. And it's important, I think, to better equip ourselves with alternatives. In that radio show that we recorded and available on Spotify and on Santa Cruz Voice website, we also talk about how we have 10 installations in California and other installations outside California as well. So there are real working examples, and And we do receive support on the federal side from US Department of Energy, National Labs. Pacific Northwest National Lab is a big supporter of our technology. And similarly at the state level from California Energy Commission and the Public Utilities Commission on the upcoming procurements. Just want to leave at, actually Matthew Pace and Invinity also work very closely when he was working at Energy Response Solutions. And just want to quickly say a line that he has a summary report for us. And that says, flow battery systems offer significant safety advantages relative to lithium ion in the areas of short circuit fault, arc flash blast, stranded energy, fire suppression, and deflagration. So this is Matthew Pace's view that we have written down from his company, Energy Response Solutions, that back our technology compared to lithium. So in a sense, some of maybe his article lines could be misinterpreted. I just want to also put that in the record that he has been a big supporter of flow battery technology on safety features. Thank you.
So thank you, John. Appreciate it. And next,
One more. Nancy, you should be allowed to speak now.
Hello, good evening, commissioners, and thank you again for hosting this series of events. This is Nancy Fallstick. I'm here living probably a quarter to a half mile from Minto Road, and I do direct Regeneración Pajaro Valley Climate Action. And I guess for me, perhaps the biggest issue here is how much time do we have to take action to significantly reduce and eliminate fossil fuels before the planet becomes completely uninhabitable. We've seen an incredible escalation over just the past couple of years in terms of loss of habitable Earth and increases in extreme weather, including huge wildfires that become urban fires and that burn tons and tons of toxic materials, killing animals, killing people, endangering the health of everybody in the area and for hundreds and hundreds of miles away. For instance, the smoke from the Canadian fires is going across the United States this summer. It's been another very, very hot summer in the United States. We've been very lucky to be in a cool spot, but I do hear that California is going to be heating up in these coming weeks. So again, for me, I think it's about how much time do we actually have. Today is actually my 60th birthday, and I am really hoping that it will be possible for my 17-year-old daughter to reach her 60th birthday. And I'm not convinced that the Earth will still be habitable at that point in time. We are hundreds of years into an experiment, the most dangerous experiment in human history, which is the shifting of fossil fuels from being stored underground into the atmosphere and into the ocean. And from everything that I've heard, we have a very narrow window to actually, bring sharply down and then eliminate the use of fossil fuels in order to keep the planet from becoming completely uninhabitable. So for me, in an ideal world, of course, we would take all the time possible to ensure complete safety in any new technology that got developed. But I'm not sure that we have that time. And from everything that I've heard, the comparative risk of one facility in Santa Cruz County to the population here compared to the dangers of gas fires from propane tanks, gas stations, gasoline cars, wildfires in other places, it's a much lower risk that I personally am willing to assume. What can we do now to buy us enough time to fully address climate change, even if it means causing some amount of harm along the way, because the technology maybe hasn't been tested for 20 years or 50 years. I appreciate all the organizing that's been going on in the community, but I do frankly think that things have been misrepresented and that there's a major tone of alarmism And that people who are coming to meetings and saying, we have to stop another Moss Landing, they're right, but what's being proposed is not another Moss Landing plant. And so I think that doesn't do a service to the community to promote that. Yeah, I think that's the point that I want to make. We're in an experiment that has gone badly awry. People are not taking the steps themselves. Governments are not taking sufficient steps to get off of fossil fuels. And I personally think we need to put all of the solutions possible into effect as soon as possible in order to preserve a livable planet and buy us enough time to fully address all of the environmental issues going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And I want to personally thank you too for all you do and your organization too, and sharing a little bit of your birthday with us today to come out to speak to us. Thank you so much for that, Nancy, for sure. Nobody else online? Is that right?
That's it.
Okay. One more comment I think we've got from the audience.
Thank you, Chair Damhorst. My name is Robert Shaw. I'm the CEO of Central Coast Community Energy. You're 100% not-for-profit local community choice aggregator. I wanted to share that, of course, Central Coast Community Energy was not an off-taker of the project in Moss Landing. We have no commercial discussions on any facility, including the Seahawk facility in Santa Cruz County. But I or my staff have been at every one of these meetings, and we've attended the Stop BESS Santa Cruz County meetings because our community is concerned, and that's our engagement. And I desperately want to thank all of you for your attention and your time and the platform that you've given to experts to help share information with the community. Chair Damhorst, your summary, I think, was excellent. I thank you for taking that on and sharing that with everybody in a condensed fashion. I think it's helping have a conversation in the community that's factual, a conversation in the community that allows people to understand both the benefits and the risks of these organizations or these facilities, and is going to help make better policy. So I deeply appreciate that. I want to thank Senator Laird and his office for showing sincere and immediate leadership. Immediately gathering experts together to look at what was the problem, what happened, what can we do. SB 230 or 283 is a response to the incident that we saw at Moss Landing. It does require coordination. Most importantly, it's going to make sure that these indoor facilities can't be built, which I think is absolutely critical. So I deeply appreciate that leadership from the senator. And I appreciate my neighbors who came and shared their concerns and voiced their opinions. These are important opinions. They're ones that those of us that have family and young children that need to think about how these facilities operate in our communities, we need to understand them and think about them. We need to think about how we plan for them. And as Ginny Johnson pointed out, we need to think about who is going to make the best decisions about how to mitigate the risks associated with them. The state number of how many batteries are going to be built, those batteries are being built not just because we're trying to reach a goal. We are trying to save the planet. We are trying to stop climate change. Our 2030 goal at Central Coast Community Energy is not driven by batteries. That is a generation goal. So that's building new generation. Batteries are not generation. So it has no relationship, our 2030 goal, with the batteries that the state is ordering that we procure. What is the retirement of natural gas facilities. In 2019, when we had blackouts that did impact people's lives, people on life-saving electric equipment, life-sustaining electric equipment, those blackouts, that was 800 megawatts of natural gas ago. We have retired 800 megawatts in the last 4.5 years. We'll retire another roughly 900, about 1.5 gigawatts of natural gas facilities by 2045. So these facilities are coming to help save lives, help economic development, help our grid be more stable. The question that Ginny Johnson put forward is, and I encourage you deeply to put this forward to your board, the ad hoc to consider this, who is going to make that decision? The AB 205 process is very rigorous. It's very robust. It will go through and make these determinations. But my view, I believe my board's view, because it is in our procurement policy, is that local jurisdiction should be making those decisions. So I really encourage the county to consider these things, have a platform where local stakeholders, local community members can share those concerns, and the county can evaluate what are the best mitigation measures instead of turning it over to the state 205 process. So again, deeply appreciate all of your work on this and the platform that you've given it. We have spent a ton of time around our 5 counties in a number of meetings just like this one, but yours was, I think, the most organized, the most level, brought in different viewpoints from around the industry, and I've really deeply appreciated being able to attend them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And you, ma'am? Yes,
Hi, my name is Janet Firth, and I am a resident of Aptos. And I have been very appreciative also of all the speakers that you've brought in. I've learned a lot from everything that I've heard. But the one thing that crosses my mind is that with Moss Landing, you know, we heard time and time again, it's like, oh, trust us, we got this down, we'll figure it out. And then there's a huge fire. And it's like, oh, well, we figured it all out. Oh, we've got it down, trust us. And then another fire. And then by the third fire, our trust is shattered. So that's why I think so many people have come forward and said safety, and you know that this is such an important piece of the protocol. And we feel like so much of that is just sort of blown out the window. And the one thing in Santa Cruz County that somebody else referenced it too, it's like, I don't want to be another chapter in the learning curve book for battery storage. I feel like more like a lab rat rather than, you know, than a civilized community. But one thing that I do appreciate about the speakers that have come was that really resonated for me was Mike Nichols, the fire chief, who came and spoke about all that he had nothing to work with, and he had to like lay out all these safety protocols and work with the industry to get their whole big battery storage area established. And I just feel that's the one piece that seems to be kind of missing out of all of this, is that we have, to my knowledge, we don't have anything in place that really sets a standard for safety protocols. And I don't see any of our fire chiefs here at any of these meetings talking about it. There really needs to be those safety protocols put in place before we go and approve some of these battery storage things, so that then it can be something that can be worked on together. Trust can be built again, because you feel like you got something solid to really hold the industry to. And I know that John Laird's got a Senate bill that's working, I think, on some of the safety stuff, which is great. And I think we should look at that. But our fire chiefs and the board, they should all be working together to really set down some solid standards, and then let companies come in and propose their projects and be held to a high standard. And our county, I think, wants a high standard because we are a little county. So anyway, so that's my long story short, but that's kind of where I'm coming from. So safety first. Thanks.
Thank you, Jan. Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, I don't think we have anybody else online, David. Okay, in the audience too. So I'm going to move on to our next agenda item. And that basically is, I was hoping to get a motion that we create an ad hoc committee. So that's going to be basically 4 of us that are going to be made up in order to put an informational letter together. So the idea of the ad hoc is that we would compile all the information, and I do have information from the general public that I've met with Nina's group and Becky's group that we'll be submitting as well too. Basically, one informational letter that we would put together for the Board of Supervisors that the 4 of us would basically work on together, and then try to have that delivered by September. So
I'll make a motion to form that ad hoc committee.
I can second that.
okay. So David, I guess we're gonna have to vote on that motion to form an ad hocs real quick. So I don't know if you want to call out commissioners.
Commissioner Hunt,
Aye.
Commissioner Weiss,
Aye.
Commissioner Damhorst,
Aye.
Commissioner Wunink,
Aye.
and Commissioner Perez.
Okay, so motion passes. So basically what we'll do is if you have interest in the ad hoc committee, you can notify David Carlson, and then he'll get that, basically that list compiled to me. Lisa?
Okay, it's hard to tell when the light is on here. What is the timeline for this? Because that would determine whether I would,
Be able to participate?
Yeah.
So we were looking for toward the end of September. So I guess I was really hoping by the end of the month of September that we would have that done and signed and then sent off. And remember, this is going to be an informational letter only. That's going to be different than a recommendation that we normally would put together. So I just want to make sure that that distinction is clear as far as what we're doing. Because I think the county is in a process too, where they're still learning as well, and us really, quite frankly, too. So all of the speakers, all the conversation, anything that we feel is pertinent in order to help them make a decision is basically what would be in that information letter. Yeah, Lisa.
I just wanted to say that you have done a phenomenal job getting a good start on that letter with your FAQ. So thank you so much for doing that. And I also wanted to thank everybody who gave comments here today, because that adds more information that we could add to that letter. So thank you, but especially to you. Thank you for the FAQs.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah. And John?
I'd like to support the comment that was made by John from the public, that we synthesize public comments as well as the speaker's comments.
Okay, great. So with that motion passed, then we'll just go on to our final agenda item, which is basically going to be any public input or oral communication on matters not on the agenda. So any comments that we have that's not going to be that's not on our current agenda. And hopefully we've covered everything that people have interest in. Anybody online, David, that hands up? No? Okay. So with that, I'm sorry, we do.
Sure.
Okay, that's okay.
Sometimes I'm kind of slow by the end of the day here. Thank you, Becky Steinbruner. I would like, I appreciate you putting together the ad hoc committee, and Commissioner Hunt, thank you for taking to heart Mr. Hassar's recommendation to distill the public comment from these informational sessions that have been held as well. What I would like to ask is that your commission study what the acute exposure guideline levels are for assessing risk of grid scale battery energy storage systems. This is known by the acronym AEGL. Currently, New Leaf is using level 2 as the toxic threshold, which is not the most protective of public health and safety. AEGL 1 is, and I would like to ask that your commission study this issue and include it in your letter to the Board of Supervisors. I would also like to ask that your commission really look into plume modeling of grid scale battery energy storage systems. At the Sacramento State Fire Marshal's Battery Energy Storage System Fire Safety Symposium, there was a speaker there that said he trusted very few of the plume models that are submitted in applications, because it's sort of a game of figuring out what you want it to look like and then make it look like that. And one example of that is New Leaf's plume model for the Seahawk project that states in the event of a fire, the plume would stay within the footprint of the project. This is something that they wrote to the Watsonville Wetlands Watch Board when they proposed some questions about the plume and the toxic gases. And New Leaf said, the plume would stay, according to our models, within the footprint of the project. That's ludicrous. I also hope that you will speak with our planners and find out how much of our county's draft ordinance is being drafted by the industry itself. I have seen some Public Records Act requests, responsive materials, and New Leaf and their consultant Dudek are actually making their own interpretations of definitions of different aspects that have to be considered in our ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Oh, yep, go ahead. I'm sorry. Next. Sorry about that.
Just a quick comment.
Sure.
Again, this is Ken Stearns. The one thing that's been talked about, we're talking about battery storage, but the one thing that's not being talked about is where's electricity come to fill up the batteries? So it's all, the thing about California is we're talking about, well, we have to go green and such, and we have to have, eliminate all the fossil fuels and such, but where's electricity coming from? The one thing I found interesting was, and it was on 60 Minutes, and you probably already heard about it, is the choke cherry and Sierra Madre wind energy product that costs $3 billion. It's a huge wind project in Wyoming, specifically built to power California. They're going to have a $3 billion Trans-West Express transmission line that's going to go to Southern California. It's supposed to be theoretically completed by 2026, which of course is the same time that the Ivanpah solar plant in the Mojave Desert, there's 3 plants there. They're shutting 2 of them down for inefficiency. They've only been online for 11 years, and they're being shut down because of inefficiencies. So when it comes to California going green, how much of this energy is being imported from out of state? How much energy are we bringing? How much gasoline are we getting from other countries because we can't produce it here? It's one thing to say, yeah, we need to be self-sufficient, for energy and do all these things. However, you do it in-house. It's absolutely ludicrous to say we have to have all these batteries and then have to bring in energy from outside sources to hopefully top them off to have that potential energy in case we have something. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Ken. Okay, anybody else? Nobody online, David? No. All right, with that, I think we are adjourned, everyone. Thank you so much. I want to thank the general public for coming out and all the comments. Definitely super helpful. Thanks, you guys. Really, really appreciate it. Definitely. All right. So who's
Everything on.